300 feet.
It's a nice wall.
And I would say, look, again, I think if parts of it are starting to show a lot of strain in potentially dangerous areas, I don't think the rest of it is going to be any different. I think at some point you're going to see the rest of it weakening.
Yeah, it's a redo.
You might have to prioritize too.
Correct.
because you're gonna
And that was
have to
Karen's
deal
idea,
with
doing
that.
it
Phased
phases.
approach,
I mean, maybe that's the other thing we do.
Yeah, I mean,
The
maybe our only
softball team
option.
is gonna start practice on March 15th, 16th, 17th, so it does leave you a whole lot of time.
Yeah, and I felt badly that their last game was played over there with all that tape and everything
Sure.
up, and it was, it really wasn't something that you want them to. You just don't want to be around that area,
The stands were moved out.
Right, the stands were moved out,
All the
right.
tape, and It
Yes.
wasn't the right kind of an environment,
No.
but,
Right.
it's what
Made the best of
happens.
it, right?
I just want to clarify, so the area that is sort of taped off right now, is there a way we can also take maybe more safety precautions just in case?
That's what I was suggesting, more permanent
And I
barriers
just
or
want to be sure
something.
that we're prepared when students are around, that we have another plan for that.
We have
Our
to do that,
parents-
Karen. It's very important.
Our parents will be
Yeah.
upset if we don't.
A couple thoughts here, though. We're obviously our primary concern is the softball team, the
Yeah.
interscholastic softball team. I would guess that 80 to 90% of the usage, however, is not the softball team. It is the youth leagues that have a tournament at Labor Day, a tournament Memorial Day, and go all summer. So the major impact are those groups when you're looking at this holistically. And to your point about the safety, there's one area that's been coned off. Literally netting was put up, and which prevents access. If you can visualize what the area looks like, you're standing at the parking lot level, looking down 8 to 10 feet to field, and when you're standing there at the chain link fence at the end of the parking lot at any of the three fields, you're standing at the top of the retaining wall.
Right.
We've put caution tape along the whole 300-foot section as a result of a request from the building inspector. Twice that people ignore it. Okay, you're going to watch a game, so we're having some, and we're not there to police it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, at night. So I think, at the risk of making this more confusing, we may have to consider asking the building inspector to take some more concerted action if he thinks it's appropriate. In other words, I don't feel comfortable making a judgment about the safety of that area. I think we have to put that in the hands of the professional, who is the building inspector, and have the town be more proactive in the involvement of this
You're
plan.
probably only about a month away from being able to shut it down for the rest of the year anyway.
I'm concerned about safety, but also the liability of somebody being injured and where that falls.
I agree. That's my
We
biggest concern.
cannot afford that.
And if people are going,
I'd
people
rather
are
be over-
ignoring the tape and just
Put a
walking up
sign
to
up
that
saying-
fence.
I ducked around the tape.
Yeah, we may have to put a temporary fence up there or something to keep people back, because it's easy to duck under or go over the tape, and then you're standing right on the edge of the wall, as Carl says.
I don't know.
So
I
bottom
don't
line,
know
you're
the
recommending we put a placeholder on the,
I'm recommending two things, I guess, but I'm not sure if I want to. The one thing is to definitely take a vote tonight to put a placeholder on for a project to replace the retaining wall at the little school. However, the question is, in terms of both the funding of that and getting a professional in to look at it, we'll be talking with the finance planning team tomorrow to see. So I don't know if I want to take a vote tonight that the school department spend $10,000
no,
to.
I think you put the placeholder on, and to be honest with you, it may be that you're not gonna get an appropriation, if you get one at all, until October town meeting. So between now and then, it may be that the finance committee, through the reserve fund, could use some monies to bring in an engineer or
Right.
somebody like that to at least assess it.
Right.
And then when we go to October town meeting, we'll have an
Yeah.
idea of what we need to do.
Yeah, that sounds
But
good.
we don't need to, do we need to take a vote tonight to authorize paying for an assessment if we don't get to that point between now and our next
No, I
meeting?
think
we
we just
don't.
wanna put a placeholder
No.
on
That's
the,
perfect.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that's what we do.
Right.
Okay.
So do we, Carl?
I also think, I want to emphasize the importance, hopefully at tomorrow morning's meeting, that this be a town-wide, when I said town-wide, I mean town/schools, school/town. Because of the history of this area that was, a ground-up coalition by softball and parents. I'd like to think that the Parks and Recreation Department take an important role in the future of this plan, in concert with the school department, since it's our property. I'd like to, wouldn't it be interesting if we had a co-sponsored warrant item on the town floor meeting in October, so that so we would have all constituencies behind it, rather than the school department having to defend what could be a $200,000 to $300,000 request.
Well, I mean, the recreation department's taking a big hit here because they're the ones that deal with youth softball for the use of that field. They're the ones that deal with these teams for tournaments, and they even use it for other recreation
events,
groups.
right.
So this is a big responsibility for them as well.
Right.
I agree there needs to be a coalition. This is a joint project.
But I
so
do think we
just
need to get
figure it
something
out.
on the warrant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
let's
should we
do that.
take two separate votes, one for a placeholder for the batch school, and then one for, or just one
do
vote
one
for both
vote.
of them?
Unless we think, right now, I don't think we're in opposition, so I think we'll be
Yeah, you
unanimous.
can take one vote.
Okay, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to place placeholders on the October town warrant for a large capital request for additional parking at the Batchelder School and repair/replacement of the retaining wall at the little school.
So moved. Oh, sorry, Cliff.
That was a tie.
I think Cliff got it a little, but
Cliff-
just a little
Cliff
bit.
had a little bit of a jump on
It's a
me.
motion, but
2/10 of a microsecond.
that was that what it was? Motion by Mr. Bowers, second by
Me.
Ms. Ericetti. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And our next meeting is not until August.
We have a workshop
Right.
scheduled for August 13th.
So perhaps we can put this
May not be
item
a
on the
bad idea,
agenda.
Mel, though, tomorrow at the finance planning team to talk about at least seeing if there's any kind of appropriation to getting somebody in there to assist.
Right, that,
something
yeah,
like
we'll do that tomorrow.
We'll do
Yeah,
that.
definitely,
Yes, good
definitely.
idea.
Okay. FY thirteen budget booklets. Carl, I don't know if there's anything to say about these other than,
Well, I have to feel rather embarrassed by the fact that there was an error on the cover.
We
yes.
forgive you.
Okay.
I forgive it. The pictures are nice.
Yes, so the
Wait, Jerry hasn't noticed what it is.
Yeah, Jerry, you know what the error is, Jerry? It's like one of these things is not like the other kind of thing here. He doesn't,
Not a picture, Jerry.
it's not a picture.
Oh.
This is too funny.
Carl, can you, like,
Well, why tell everybody,
Right, wait.
you know?
Well, not everybody's
on.
stupid as I am.
Let's go to the overview.
This was the same cover we used for the preliminary
Preliminary.
budget.
Right.
Oh, that's,
yeah.
yeah, well, that's.
It should be the
yeah,
final.
And I was wondering why you were sending out
yeah,
the
the preliminary budget, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We just crossed that off.
But this is the final
Well,
budget.
This is the final budget, you know. Interestingly, by the way, I actually thought twice or three times about the worthiness of printing a paper budget. I don't think there's one administrator or one person in the school department that uses it. Maybe there's one, because everyone's using our accounting system. You know, everyone goes in.
Our
because-
HR director does.
Okay, okay, then, okay. That's an important reason to continue it then. But, because budgets change, people move, you know, $50 from here to there, and that wouldn't be represented in the paper budget. And plus it's online. The public, judging by the number of hits I see on the budget page and our website, about hundreds, if not thousands of people are looking at that. So,
It's all
anyway.
me.
Not Jerry.
So we do
Good for
print this.
Jerry.
This is reflective of the town meeting
awesome.
vote, of course, in June.
I love paper.
The only comment I would make that actually comes later in the agenda, but I might as well mention it, that we continue to get good news, you know. This was a budget process that once again was replete with a lot of consensus building and a lot of work on town and school side. It's a good budget. Once again, we have avoided any layoffs that are based on fiscal reasons. And we know that the final number that came in was actually slightly higher than the budget request we had made. So we do have funds that are yet to be allocated, that are sitting there for emergencies or for future years. We also know that the Great and General Court voted a circuit breaker number that might be as high as $100,000 higher than we budgeted. So that was a full funding of the circuit breaker, the first time in history. We don't know the exact number because it's based on computations that they haven't published yet. Those funds, of course, will also be put aside for important reasons. So those are the two comments I would make about the budget moving forward, and
Carl, and I note the salaries reflect the 2% cost of living increase and the half-year step increase,
Yes,
correct?
they do. Yes, they do. Yes, every salary in here is reflective. The only salary in here that's not reflective of FY13 is the business managers.
And we will discuss that.
Segue.
And we,
That's
no,
the
we will,
best segue
we will,
ever.
we will discuss that,
At staffing.
And this
when we
is
get to
an
staff.
actual picture of North Reading coming across.
Oh, is that the, from recent graduation?
Yes, it is.
That's great.
Nice picture.
Very good.
Very hip. and
Any
cool.
questions or comments on the budget? Again, I think, we say this every year, but the cooperation with selectmen, the finance committee, the town administrator, the town finance director, the involvement of selectmen and school committee at the finance planning team, I think lends itself to a much more cordial budget sessions than they might have been in the past when we didn't have finance planning.
It's made for a much more collaborative type of
Yes.
environment for budget purposes and other purposes
Right.
too, to be honest.
Right, I mean, there are a lot of issues that you can work out in that finance planning team, and I think it's,
Yeah, it's good.
but it's great news. Every year is a struggle to get the money that we want. But with the new high school going up and the new middle school and the budget set, it's a good year.
Here, here.
Thanks, Carl. Revised long-term substitute guidelines. Ms. Willis.
I wanted to bring this forward to you during budget deliberations when we did have a considerable gap between the original appropriation by the town and what it would cost to produce a level services budget. We were looking at cost-saving measures. One of those cost-saving measures that we examined was our current long-term substitute guidelines. And even though, as you just heard, the budget is healthy, I think this is a cost-saving measure that we should still move forward. And I wanted to explain it to you. When we were taking a look at current practice regarding the hiring of long-term substitutes, a common practice in this district has been that if an applicant for a long-term substitute position had a bachelor's degree, that long-term sub was assigned to the first step of the bachelor's salary schedule for the term of that substitute time. If the long-term substitute had a master's degree, then that candidate was assigned to the first step of the master's salary schedule. And I took a look, or I asked Carl to take a look for me as to if all of our long-term substitutes were hired on the first step of the bachelor schedule using last year's figures as an example. I'm sorry, FY11's figures as an example, because we hadn't yet finished the FY12 school year. I wanted to know what the cost savings would be to the district. And I'm pleased to report to you that we would have saved $17,000 if we had hired all the long-term subs in FY11 at BA1 instead of BA and MA1. So I am recommending that we change our practice to hiring our substitutes at the BA1 level, starting with the FY13 school year.
Comments, questions?
It's okay with me. I mean, I don't think it's gonna deter the quality of the subs you're gonna get in there, yeah.
I do think that you did survey surrounding districts, and many of them only hire long-term substitutes at the BA1 level.
That's correct. That
There were a
is
few that did the same thing that we did, but most, I believe, hired at the BA1 level long-term subs.
most. In fact, I think there was only one that differentiated. There are different terms as far as, you work 10 consecutive days at the current single substitute rate, and then you bump into, and then you bump into the salary schedule at BA1. We already have those kinds of guidelines in place, and I'm not recommending that we change those, because after a substitute has done temporary substituting for 10 days, they bump from $60 a day to $75 a day. And I'm sorry, that's after 20 days of temporary substitute work. So we already have that differential built in.